crime wave plaguing American cities is not going to get better anytime soon. That's not us saying it or a politician. It's the FBI Director Christopher Wray in an interview yesterday with 60 Minutes.
We're seeing more and more juveniles committing violent crime, and that's certainly an issue. We're seeing a certain amount of gun trafficking, interstate gun trafficking. That's part of it. And we're seeing an alarming frequency of some of the worst getting back out on the streets.
Suddenly the media, especially the mainstream national media, is showing a renewed interest in covering this crime wave, an issue affecting cities both big and small. If you watch any other major network, you probably haven't heard about this issue as often. Thankfully, though, Wray says the Bureau has a plan in place to cut down on crime.
We are working very hard with our partners, state and local law enforcement partners, through task forces all over the country, and through surging rapid deployment teams to try to combat violent crime in specific hotspots.
Those task forces deploy from one of the FBI's 56 field offices nationwide. We did some research. It turns out the Bureau already has offices in 8 of the 10 most dangerous cities in the country. That's according to a list from Forbes. The other 2 cities, Baton Rouge and Shreveport, Louisiana, are both an hour flight or less from the field office in New Orleans. Translation, crime is still on the rise, even in the FBI's backyard. The latest numbers show murders rose 30% from 2019 to 2020. More than 21,000 Americans died. Nearly 3/4 of those killings involved firearms. It's the largest one-year increase in modern American history. The Bureau hasn't released any numbers from this past year, but the Council on Criminal Justice suggests the number of people murdered is even higher. Bring in civil rights attorney Robert Patillo, Batya Ungar Sargon, deputy opinion editor for Newsweek. Appreciate both of you being here. Batya, at least for me, when I watched the Chris Wray interview, he said, and we're seeing an alarming frequency of some of the worst getting back on the streets. It almost seemed like he was pained to have to admit that and sort of worried as you watched his eyes whether or not he was going to get in trouble with his boss for saying it.
You know, if he was talking about recent criminal justice reform measures that have been employed, you know, in progressive cities, I sort of feel his pain because as somebody who cares a lot about criminal justice reform, as I'm sure a lot of your viewers do as well, it's very hard to look at those measures we put in place to combat things that in many cases were unconstitutional, in many cases are racist, right? And say, what if those measures have had this negative impact on our cities? I don't know what the answer is to that. I do know that I want the Democrats to be at the forefront of it because we want to have a sensitive criminal justice, racial justice-oriented perspective when it comes to crime. But right now, it seems like the Democrats' perspective is just to ignore it, is to have no perspective, no answer to this. And it is the most vulnerable Americans who again and again find themselves on the wrong end of a gun, leading to lower life expectancies, children being killed and shot in the poorest neighborhoods, in middle income, in lower income, Black and Latino neighborhoods. We cannot just sit there and let this keep happening.
You think about it, Robert, murders by race increased 2019 to 2020. Of African Americans, Black, 9,941. That's up 32%. With whites, it only increased by 16%. I say only, it's still double digits, says an awful lot about how bad things are. Does Batya have a point that this is much more about class than it is about politics?
Well, I think there's an intersection that we have to look at when it comes to this, because when we talk about policies to ameliorate crime, very often we only talk about what happens inside of the jail, inside of the courthouse, inside of the police car, but we don't talk about the broader societal issues that drive this. Just think about the inflation, for example, to use this as a side example. If you're middle class and gas prices and food prices are affecting your daily budget, imagine if you're in the lowest rungs of society and now you've gone from just being able to make ends meet and feed your family down to a lower level than even that, where you can't even afford to put gas in your car to go to work or take your kid to school. We have to look at the holistic aspects of this.
I understand the point, although inflation wasn't a problem in 2019 to 2020 when murders were up in the Black community by 33%, 32%, a third. Is it time, as the head of the FBI acknowledged, to reevaluate the progressive measures in some of these big American cities, specifically when it comes to bail, that has led to more and more career criminals being let out who've then gone on to commit murder. In Tucson, I think it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it was 6 people who'd been let out when the prosecutor wanted to keep them in jail, let out because of progressive policies, who went on to commit murder.
Well, that's a point that I'm making. We have to make sure that when you're letting people out, quote unquote, you also have transitional housing, you have educational programs, you have vocational programs, so they don't go back to recidivism. You have to ensure that you're not sending them simply back to the same community with the same struggles they had previously that led them down this line. So I think that there's a way to have safe communities, but also not have the lock them up, throw away the key, 3 strikes you're out programs of the 1990s. I think we're yet to find that balance because there's so much hyperbole on both sides of the discussion.
All right, fair enough always that the pendulum in America swings too far one way and then the other. We've always seen that. This is the FBI director on the increase of violence against police officers.
To the violent crime problem as a whole, but one of the phenomena that we saw in last year is that an alarming percentage of the 73 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty last year were killed through things like being ambushed. Wearing the badge shouldn't make you a target.
Batya, is there an explanation for this other than the defund the police rhetoric?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to point out that a quarter of those cops who were killed tragically murdered in the line of duty were killed in Texas. So, it's not only happening in liberal strongholds. This is really an epidemic across the nation. And I do think that there is a feeling of lawlessness, a feeling of that the rule of law is no longer something that applies equally to all people. And, when I talk to cops here in New York, they tell me that it's not just the defund the police rhetoric. It's actually there's, regulations and rules that are making them second guess themselves before approaching a criminal, them really feel that they are hamstrung in their ability to fight crime in the streets. Now, again, some of that is really important, right? We don't want to go back to before we had this sort of consciousness about the problems of police brutality, especially against Black men. That's a really important thing for us to be aware of at the same time.
I'm up against a hard clock. I got to give Robert the last 15 seconds on this.
Yeah, of course.
Is the rhetoric against police another thing where the pendulum swung too far?
No, I think where the pendulum swung too far is where you're having this intersection where police officers are not working with community groups on reforms. Instead of them coming together, they start butting heads on these issues. If you can actually have community-oriented police reform, then you'll see even these officer-involved killings go down, and also violence against officers be reduced.
All right. Hey, we appreciate both of you being here. Thank you, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks,
Both good
Leland.
friends of the show. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.